Hello and welcome back to the Outdoor Minimalist podcast. I'm your host, Meg Carney, and I'm an outdoor and environmental writer and author of the book, Outdoor Minimalist, Waste Less Hiking, Camping, and Backpacking. The Outdoor Minimalist podcast has the goal to give listeners actionable ways to waste less hiking, camping, backpacking, and more during every step of their process. Your impact outdoors starts long before you hit the trail and goes beyond leave no trace ethics. You'll learn how to identify sustainable outdoor brands, how to ask hard questions regarding sustainability, and begin to shift and evolve your mindset to integrate minimalism into all of your outdoor pursuits. In episode 88 of the Outdoor Minimalist podcast, we do an overview of what a refillery is, why they should be more prevalent in the United States, and how Kerry Jones started Suds Refillery when she saw the need for a more sustainable innovation in her community. Suds Refillery was started in the summer of 2022 as a mobile Kansas City-based soap shop and is now located in Shawnee, Kansas. Adventuring plans on your calendar? Remember to grab your Lava Linens travel towel on your way out the door. Founded by a mother-daughter team, Lava Linens crafts durable, luxurious travel towels as a more sustainable and better performing alternative to microfiber and cotton towels. Powered by flax, hemp, and tencel, they're designed to be by your side for years to come. Use the code Outdoor Minimalist for 15% off your next order. So thank you for hopping on the Outdoor Minimalist podcast today, Kerry. This is a topic that we haven't covered at all yet, so I'm really excited to jump in and learn a bit more about your business, how it all started, and your life in general. So to get started, I'd love to get to know you a little bit more, and I'll start with the question I ask all of my guests, which is, how did you become interested in outdoor recreation, and how does it fit into your life now?
That's a good question. For me, it really is. How did I get into it? It's being born, I guess. It's just one of those things that's a part of you. So I think as a kid, you naturally play outside. And then my parents got us into cycling at a young age. And I say us because I have a sister that we're twins. So we kind of did everything together. By the time I was 13, we were going on actual bike rides instead of just riding your bike around the cul-de-sac. And maybe it started there, but it also, camping. We love to camp. We go on trips. Anytime we go somewhere, we're usually camping or going somewhere to mountain bike or enjoy everything the outdoors has to offer, including around our house too. So even just getting out and going on a bike ride or swimming in the lake. We grew up on a neighborhood lake, so I think that was probably a big part of it too, is just being exposed to the outdoors all our life.
And you live in Kansas City now. Is that where you grew up, or did you relocate there?
Yeah, actually, I grew up in Lee Summit, which is a suburb of Kansas City. So when you say Kansas City, yes, it's Kansas City. But here and there, I've moved about seeking adventure throughout the country. So, but yeah, we're in Kansas City now and still enjoy other places too.
Do you do a lot of those same activities with your family now? Do you kind of like introduce your passions to your children?
Yeah, so I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. Sorry, he just turned 6. I keep forgetting. So a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old, and we definitely make sure to get out on paddle boards in the summer and kayaks and bike rides. I mean, my kids were in a bike trailer from the time the bike trailer says you can get a child in a bike trailer safely. We were doing that. So yeah, in camping, we've got pictures of infant little guys camping, and it's just so fun. So it's good to introduce them to that.
Yeah, that's
good
amazing.
For their development. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's so important for children. So today, the topic in general, kind of transitioning into what we're discussing, is about a refillery, which you started a few years back. And I know that it's not necessarily a part of the outdoor industry, but I think because everyone who participates in outdoor sports uses a lot of these products, they can use them in their daily life, and they can also use them out in the backcountry, that it seems like a relevant and important topic to talk about on this show. So I think to kind of start out, I will just have you kind of describe what a refillery is and how you started yours.
Sure. Yeah, so we are actually just coming up on 1 year. So yeah, we're still kind of fairly new to it, but not new to the concept. And definitely it's so important to the outdoors. Let me explain what it is first, though. So a refillery is a place where you can take your empty bottles of, your household products and your body products. So we're talking about lotions, shampoos, conditioners, and dish soap, laundry soap, dishwasher detergent, multi-purpose cleaner. I mean, the list goes on, and we have it all in bulk. So you can bring those containers and fill up your empties, and just a way for you to not have to buy a new plastic bottle with a new product in it. You can just reuse what you have just to help reduce plastic waste. And then we also have a lot of items that we maybe source from some other small businesses, like chapstick and makeup that are, makeup is a huge producer of plastic waste, and you can't refill those things. So the makeup we have in our store is in cardboard tubes, which are so cool, and they're, compostable when you're done with it, or refillable, or not refillable, but recyclable. So it's just such a cool concept, and it's nice to be able to show people that.
Yeah, I wish that there was a refillery closer to where I live. I feel like a lot of people in this area would definitely use them.
Yeah.
And when you came up with the idea to start it, is it just because there was kind of a lack of opportunities there and sustainability was a passion of yours, or why did you feel the need to start this business?
I think being part of just a natural lifestyle that I like to live, trying to reduce my own waste. I've done a lot of like making my own laundry detergent just to reduce my packaging. We are in the Midwest, which can be a bit, a lot of times we are the last people in the country to catch on to trends, including fashion, that sort of thing. So I think it's great to be able to be that resource. And really, we've done a lot of showing people that this is an option that they didn't even know about. And I think the reason we wanted to start it is just to provide another option out there. And you know what? To provide an option for myself too. So it's nice to be able to have something that I can do and contribute. And I feel like, as a stay-at-home mom, it's a very busy lifestyle just doing that alone. But you're at home and you watch all the national news shows that are talking about climate change, and they're talking about all the waste in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, the garbage in the ocean. And, that's one thing. Well, I'm not on the ocean. I'm just here in the Midwest in a town where does it really affect us? And it felt like a way to do something on a small scale. Since I'm not a celebrity status, I don't have the money to go start an organization or something that, whatever Leonardo DiCaprio is doing, I don't have that status. So it was like, but I can do something on a small scale in this town, and small changes make huge differences.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that you're kind of focusing on your local community. And also a trend that I've noticed with a lot of entrepreneurs on the show is that a lot of times they need to solve a problem for themselves, and then they realize, well, the community as a whole could really benefit from this. And you kind of spoke a little bit about some of the reasons, environmental reasons why, but what are some of the other positive impacts of having access to a refillery?
Well, I think just for the community, like just being able to show people a different option and be able to have that opportunity. I feel like starting this small business, by the way, it's me and my mom who started it. And I thought, we've had opportunities come about that you don't even think of. They weren't part of the plan, but you get people reaching out to you saying, hey, can you come speak at our 5th grade environmental group after school one day? And I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. Or can you come to our high school and talk to us about sustainability? And I didn't plan on that. I didn't plan on having those opportunities. And I think that has been really cool because it's just another way that people are learning about, what climate change is doing and what we are doing and what we can change and do better. And just to have those opportunities to get out there and be a voice for the planet, for your own backyard.
Yeah, that education piece, I could see it being really impactful, like you're saying, especially in the Midwest and maybe where there aren't other resources or community pillars that are necessarily on the same train.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you get a lot of people that don't care at all. But luckily, we're finding enough people that do, that are like, yeah, we want this. So that's really cool.
That's amazing. I love that. Since we are kind of talking about maybe people's misunderstanding of the climate crisis and just how we operate in our day to day, specifically in the United States, and since you live in the Midwest, you can kind of just speak on your experiences there. But how is a refillery different in how it functions compared to how we generally shop?
Yeah. Well, first of all, refilleries, any refillery that I've ever heard of is a small business. So that alone is, a different impact on the community than going to a big box store, because that money is directly going right back into the community. But then on the logistics side, you go into whatever store it is, grocery store, to buy your shampoo, conditioner, whatever. And it is, here's my new plastic bottle that I'm buying. I mean, just the whole process, the whole idea alone is so different than just consumer, oh, this is on sale, I'm going to get this one and this one, I'm going to get 5 of them. I think people are more conscious about what they are purchasing, and just more mindful. It's a more mindful way of shopping, really, I think. So, yeah, I mean, somebody that comes into our store is coming in for the purpose of, the whole mission of a refillery, of reusing something, refilling something, and only buying what they need. So in a way, we've got people that are the minimalist, that just want to get what they need, and that's it. And that's good.
Yeah, I have just kind of a couple of questions about some of the logistical side of things, maybe. Do you think that you are able to source, I mean, because you're sourcing things in bulk, right? And do you think
Mm-hmm.
you're able to have maybe more control over the types of ingredients to make sure that they're more natural? Because I do know that in like a lot of our household products, there's a lot of toxic ingredients that we're exposing
Yeah,
ourselves and our families and our pets to. So was that also kind of a motivator, I
definitely.
guess?
Yes, yes, it is. So first of all, the two main bulk liquid soaps that we are getting are made within like 3 hours of us, which we're fortunate in that way, because there's refilleries I know of in Pennsylvania that are buying from the same people that we are, that don't have that luxury of being so close. So I think we're lucky in that way. But one of the companies that we get our liquid soap from actually started because I think their company is like 23 years old or so, but they started because they had a child that had all, took the allergy test and was allergic to everything, like everything fired up for them. So that's when they started the company where they're making all these liquid soap products. So they are non-toxic. But not only that, which I think is really important for, when you're camping or outdoors, is that they're non-toxic for the environment as well. So there's stuff that, if you take a toothpaste tab and chomp it up and brush your teeth and spit it on the ground at your campsite, it's not going to be toxic to the environment. Same with like the hand soap. And I think that's super important. So, yeah. Did I answer that question okay?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I love that you brought up the point about not only the exposure to ourselves, but then if we're bringing these outside to recreate, that it does minimize harm to the environment there as well. And I had another
Yeah.
question about like people like coming and shopping, and I'm trying to remember
Mhm.
exactly what my question was. But I think it was something along the lines of, oh, do you find it sometimes difficult or not difficult, but do you think that sometimes there is kind of like a learning curve to remember to bring your items, or do you think that sometimes people see it as an inconvenience, whereas they could just go to, say, Walmart or Target or something and just like grab something quick off the shelf versus having to bring a container into your store and like decide what to
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I kind of left that part off too. So when you come into our store, let's say you're coming in for the first time. So you have the option, if you don't have your own container, first of all, bringing your own is one option. Another option is that we have for sale glass and aluminum containers. So people can buy an empty and fill that up. And of course, that makes your initial cost more expensive, but the next time you bring it back, it's cheaper to refill it. And then the third option is that we have just a little collection of bottles and containers that people have dropped off that would be good to refill. So stuff from the recycle bin. So things that, like, I even had, those squeezy ketchup bottles. I had some of those and I filled mine with laundry detergent and it was so perfect for squeezing into your laundry machines. So yeah, we have those three options so that people make no excuse, right? Like you have no excuse. We've got everything for you. So yeah, but I do think it can also be more work to save your bottles at home and bring them in. So definitely, yeah, that's a part of it. But hopefully it just makes, I guess one thing of the whole concept would also be of, okay, well, if I have to save my bottle at home, well, then I'm thinking about this more throughout my day, and I'm going to do things in other areas of my life to help reduce my waste or buy less. We've got more intentional shoppers, and hopefully that's creating more intentional individuals in their daily life.
Yeah, yeah, I like that thought process because it's likely that when they're changing this one aspect of their shopping behaviors or other behaviors, like you're saying, in their daily life, that it's kind of like a trickle effect and it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
impacting their worldview, maybe in some ways. I also love that you have kind of more common household things that people would be recycling anyway or disposing of anyway, and kind of like showing them that hey, you can just use this because I think sometimes in the zero waste aesthetic, people can get kind of caught up in they need a specific fancy container, but really you can just use an
Yeah,
old
just
pasta
use them.
sauce
Yeah.
jar or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. And I think sometimes that it gets intimidating for people too, because they're like, oh my gosh, I have to refill everything. Well, you don't. Start with one thing, start with whatever empty bottle you've got and come in and get some sunblock or, bug spray, that sort of stuff. You can start with one thing. I mean, even if you just bring in, I don't know, we've had people that are like, well, I want to see that if I like it. Well, bring in those little shampoo bottles from the hotel that you took and fill up that and just, start somewhere and see what you think. So I think sometimes it can be intimidating. And the other thing is like everybody's in a different place on their sustainable journey. So if somebody's like, just getting into it, I think it's really important not to make them feel intimidated by, saying, oh, you've got to do this. You've got to be perfect. You've got to take your plastic bags to the grocery store to recycle them. You've got to do this. You've got to stop all that stuff you're doing and do it all the right way. I think that is a turnoff. It's like the holier than thou concept. Like you can't be holier than thou. You've got to just meet people where they are. And I think that's a more encouraging way to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that overlaps with a lot of sentiments that I've had other guests kind of speak on, which is just kind of like start with what you have. And that kind of allows people to launch in their own personal journey and not get caught up in the rest.
Yeah, yeah.
So you talked a lot about kind of the general process as a shopper, but how do you as a business owner kind of incorporate a circular system into your store model?
So that's a good question. And I don't know that all of our shoppers always know that either. So we get our products either in 5-gallon buckets or in 1-gallon jugs. And there's some other containers in between, that we don't need to get into. But so we use those. And if we cannot use those to refill or to dispense our products after we're done with them, they all go back to the company we got them from. So then they sanitize them and they refill them with the same product or, similar product. And then that goes out on the next shipment to whoever is buying their product too. And another way is we just recently started making our own liquid hand soap just to have another option. And because that reduces our personal waste in ordering products too. I mean, yeah, we are taking everything back, but man, if we can buy the ingredients in bulk and make our own, that's another step towards more sustainability. We could keep going and going.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of a process because kind of as you grow as a business and maybe more interest grows in the community, you'll start to change and adapt over time. And you talked a little bit about using it while camping, using some of the products while camping, since a lot of them are just general hygiene or cleaning products. So, how do most people utilize your products? Do you think most of the time people are coming in specifically just to replenish their household things? Or are they kind of coming in to do like longer haul trekking type stuff?
Yeah, I think we get a little mix, and that might vary regionally. If you're in Oregon or Colorado, somewhere where people are doing it to go out. But I think, yeah, we get mostly people that are doing it for just their regular everyday stuff, the household products. I just feel like some of that goes a little bit hand in hand. Like we're outdoorsy people and this is the lifestyle we choose. And we've got customers that are the same way. I had a girl come in last week and she's like, hey, I need to get some toothpaste tabs because we're going camping and I need some for the weekend. So yeah, we get that, but then we also get the regular, person that just wants to use it for everyday use. And that's what's great about it. When you can choose the bottle you put it in, you can make it packable. You can make it go in an airplane and in the size that you want it. So
Yeah, I do like that about the refillery concept that you don't have to get like the big container all the time and you don't have to buy like the tiny one. You can kind of like tailor it to your own specific needs. It reminds me of, I had a guest on last year sometime, and she did a zero waste hike of the Pacific Crest hiking trail, and she's from Mexico, which is really cool to hear her story. But she talked about how things are just generally in bulk in Mexico. And so shopping in the United States was a kind of a big surprise to her. And so why don't you think it's more common to have a refillery system in the United States when it is obviously implemented in other countries?
yeah, man, I wish it was that way. That would be so nice. Just my personal opinion is that I think that this country is built on convenience and what's easy. And you know what? Plastic is convenient, plastic is easy, and it's cheap. So that I think is the main reason why. I also feel like with our country, I mean, we're a very large country, and to ship things, plastic is lighter, you know, it's cheaper to ship plastic. So I think that just the cost of it and the convenience of plastic. I mean, it's like a love-hate relationship because look at how plastics have helped our medical fields and help us reduce diseases from, not reusing a glass syringe from person to person, like they originally did. So I think it's just that we are a convenient country and we like big stuff. So people should like buying in bulk, right?
Yeah, you would think so. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, plastic is everywhere all the time, and it's just like that single use phenomenon never really ended when it
Yeah.
became a marketing ploy. I don't know when that was, but before I was
Well,
born.
that and it's really hard because we are people that try to be sustainable with our purchasing, but I take plastic bags from my own house to the grocery store to be recycled more often than I wish I did. And that's because of the food that you buy. Everything's wrapped in plastic. I mean, look at your cereal. I can go to the groceries, the natural grocery stores that have the bulk bins, but they don't have my Panda Puffs in bulk. So I buy a box of Panda Puffs with plastic bag, and it's hard to, even as much as you avoid plastic, it's there. I mean, it's just so prevalent everywhere that it's so hard to avoid. So I guess that's another thing is just doing what we can to reduce where we can.
Yeah, what would you say that if someone's listening and they don't have access to a refillery specifically, what would be some other ways that listeners can maybe adopt some of those practices to reduce their waste, especially with food like you're speaking on, because so many
Mhm.
things are wrapped in plastic and we just can't avoid it.
Yeah, it is. It's very hard. I think what is nice, like we have a lot of family in Pennsylvania, and they're in very small towns, which I think Pennsylvania feels like when we go visit there, it feels like Pennsylvania is really mostly just a lot of small towns. I mean, they don't have a refillery. I think they have that my family had the closest one to them is about 30 miles. So it's not convenient for them. But I know there's also a lot of like Amish stores that sell things in bulk in a lot of really rural places. So I think maybe shopping at, the Amish or the Mennonite stores helps because they've got stuff in bulk. There are a few companies that are minimal waste that will ship your products. Like one of my friends actually here in town, we're neighbors in our shop, and she has a minimal waste food, the same concept as us, but it's in food. Now she does have to ship the product, like let's say I want dried pineapple, she does have to ship it in, compostable packaging, but at least it's compostable. So it's a step in the right direction. So I think seeking out some of those companies that do have the food, because she can ship to the middle of Kansas or, the middle of Missouri somewhere and, help reduce waste in that way. Of course, there's also the options of growing your own food, which is definitely seasonal in Missouri. Not everybody has the resources to have their own greenhouse, but you can do it. Seasonally helps. That's one more thing that can help. So I think growing your own produce and your own herbs and that sort of thing, making your own bread. We've got a bread machine that I've had for 10 years that's still kicking. And every time I make a loaf of bread or make some pizza dough, that's dough I didn't buy from a plastic bag in the grocery store.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously those types of activities maybe wouldn't be suitable for all people. So like you were kind of speaking on earlier, it's like do what you can, where you can. And I do really appreciate that you brought up kind of like the location differences, because if you live in a metro, like say Los Angeles, there's more than likely several refilleries. There's more access to bulk bins at the grocery store. But if you live in a town of 1,000 people, then you're going to have one market and the next one, I don't know how far away it is. So I think it is really specific to like where you live. And also there's lots and lots and lots of people in the United States that live in food deserts or just general grocery deserts where they wouldn't have access to anything like this because they don't really have access to anything at all. So
yeah, it's true. Hopefully there's a farmer's market near them, because it seems like even if you are somewhere out in the middle of somewhere, I just don't want to say in the middle of nowhere, hopefully you do have at least a farmer's market that you can go to.
Yeah, I have seen some really cool programs in some of the larger cities, like Detroit, where they have a lot of food deserts where they kind of like created a lot of community agriculture, which is just really amazing. But now I'm kind of getting off into like digressing into a different direction. So I'm going to rein myself in here.
No, that's okay. Because I was going to say there's also like food co-ops that you can be a part of the farmers market co-op. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like the CSA, right? Those boxes. They're awesome. Yep. Yeah. And then you're also supporting the local farmers. So.
And there's that one that does like the ugly produce or whatever. I don't know even what it's
like
called.
Like Misfits Market.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, that's like a national one, isn't it?
I think so. Because if you know about it and I know about it, then it must be, right?
Yeah, because we're on completely other sides of the country. Yeah. And I'll share links to some of the different companies that you have brought up. And if you want to share your friend's food one, I'll share that in the show notes.
Yeah, her place is called Pantry Goods. So
okay. Yeah, that would be great. So kind of circling back to your start and your beginning with Suds Refillery, what advice would you give someone that is interested in starting their own refillery, either as a pop-up or like an actual storefront? Because I think, like you mentioned at the beginning, when there's so many things happening around us, it feels like we don't have a lot of control, but then kind of like becoming an influence in your community can have such a big impact. So yeah, what advice would you give someone that was interested in doing that?
Yeah. So how honest do you want me to be?
As honest as you feel comfortable speaking on.
Because honestly, I will tell you, if you're in it to make money, don't do it. Because it's a small business. And a small business is not a moneymaker, at least not up front. So I'll cut you off right there and say, don't do it if that's what you're in for. If you're in it because you want to bring something to your community that can make a difference, then you're on the right track. But I think it also, if you can visit other refilleries or at least look them up online if you're not close to them, and send them a message on Facebook or follow them on Instagram and just kind of do some research and see what they're doing, where they're going, ask questions, and kind of form your own vision of what is going to work for you. And I know there's lots of refilleries that have either started mobile. We started mobile. We started just doing pop-up events around the city. And that's another thing I should mention too. But anyway, I'll come back to that. We started mobile, just doing little events around the city. And then we were like, well, we kind of need to be more convenient for people so that they can find us and not just wait for us to pop up somewhere. And I think that's why we actually got a storefront. I think delivery is also a good option. Delivery is something to look into, figuring that out, especially for people that, there's people that are homebound that can't get out. And so that's always a nice option to have. But something interesting, and maybe I'm getting off subject here, but we started mobile because we were like, oh, we can get into the farmers market. And we applied to 3 farmers markets in our area and were turned down from all of them. And it's interesting because you'll see, LA has several. My sister-in-law actually works for one of the refilleries out there, and they're at a farmer's market every week. And then I see ones on the East Coast, they've got them every week. And I don't know if that's just a mindset thing. Again, the more progressive mindset to allow a refillery into a farmer's market, but this is a concept that should go in a farmer's market. I mean, it really should. And it's not a competition between me and the soap maker that's making fancy bar soaps. That's not what we're about. And the whole idea is completely different. That's a craft bar soap, which is beautiful and wonderful, but it's not competing against a liquid soap that you can refill for your laundry or your hand soap. And I think that's where some of the confusion that's kind of just what I'm gathering. The farmers markets around here anyway want more crafty stuff, or the growers, and, or making everything yourself. And we do make quite a few of our products, but we don't make it all. We source a lot of it locally. But yeah, anyway, that's a whole nother topic. So sorry if that was a little off.
No, that's really interesting because I think the rules and regulations in every state might be different regarding farmers markets. Mm-hmm. So like knowing what's available to you, I think if you want to start a refillery would be an important consideration.
Yeah. That's actually very important because I think you're in Florida, right?
I was last time we talked, but I'm in Washington State right now.
Okay. So back to the whole, what would you do if somebody wants to start their own refillery? There are different rules in different states. I know that Pennsylvania and Florida, and I forget the other one, there's a few that have some different regulations on whether it's what you're putting in the refill bottles or how you're labeling it and that sort of thing. So you want to know what the regulations are in your state. And we are actually, Kansas City is in Missouri, but Kansas is right. I mean, we're Kansas and Missouri, we are Kansas City. So we're interesting because we've got 2 states in our cities. Also, the farmers market thing, I just think it's so interesting because the reason they gave us, this was last year and this year. So we've applied 2 years in a row. And they're always like, no, sorry. I'm like, what? We're even making our own body butter and stuff like that. Anyway, I think we got turned away last year because they wanted us to you have to make a certain percentage of your goods. And maybe that wasn't what we were meshing with. But also, I feel like I was talking to you about, usually farmers markets are wanting, a good variety at their market, which, yes, that's what you want. So they've got the soap maker, they've got the beehive, they've got the tomatoes and the flowers and all that stuff. And so to put us in there, we would follow under like the soap category, which is right. But I feel like the concept is not always well known enough that they don't realize that this isn't the same as a craft soap, a fancy artisanal soap. It's a whole different thing. This is a day-to-day refillable product rather than a beautiful bar of soap that you want to gift to someone. And I think that's where some of the confusion has come in, is because they don't quite, at least around here anyway, is they're not quite understanding what we are and what we're doing.
Yeah, and that's kind of a bummer because I feel like the folks that go to a farmer's market are your exact market, or like the audience that would be the most interested in a refillery business. But yeah, if it's not necessarily a common or well-known type of store, then I could see there being confusion around like, well, what is this exactly?
Yeah, and I think that's regional too, because you look at LA and they're all over the farmers market. You look at wherever else that, we're on a Facebook page that has a bunch of refilleries on it. Anyway, I feel like that goes back to the same thing about how fashion is the last to get here, because we're in the middle of the country, we're just kind of the last ones to get it. And I think we're the last ones to get it as far as refillery too. And get it, I mean, like, understand,
Yeah, like, not like actually receive it, but like implement those types of things.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah, well, I'm glad that you showed up in your city and were able to implement those changes. And hopefully it continues to kind of take off and have an impact, and more people will start to see the value that you're bringing as a store. And so, how can listeners learn more about you and Suds Refillery?
So us personally, well, we have Facebook and Instagram and a website, and it's all Suds Refillery. So our website's www.sudsrefillery.com, and then Instagram's at Suds Refillery, as well as Facebook. That's how you find out about us.
Awesome. I'll be sure to share your socials and the website in the show notes in case people want to check them out, especially if they're local to the Kansas City area and they want to find you guys. But with that, thank you so much for taking the time to hop on the show and explain about your business process and the importance of having these options all around the United States.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm so glad that we were able to do this. It was a good opportunity.
Thanks for listening. And if you like what you hear, let me know. Leave a review and be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. You can find us on Instagram at outdoor.minimalist.book, on YouTube, or subscribe to our weekly newsletter at theoutdoorminimalist.com. For even more updates, other educational resources, and to help build an outdoor community with the shared goal to create a better outdoor space as we recreate.